Saturday. Y'all know how we do. Up early Saturday morning to get it in. Shout out to the Dragon Ball content because y'all know we got plenty of it to review. As y'all seen by the video, we got a good comparison because we got two different demon kings trying to. Well, one's a king and one's a god, so we know the problems there, right? But anyways, yeah, we got two different demons in charge of the situation, and they're playing comparisons this week. So, shout out to good content. We try to review and keep doing what we do. Anyways, let me see what this looks like over here. Get this ready to go. Hopefully you're smoking good and doing good because y'all already know we over here kicking it. Y'all know to go check out the Buy Me a Coffee. Shout out to the Buy Me a Coffee. That's popcorns, but we're going to change that. Stop by the Pig Bank because that's what we call our Buy Me a Coffee on Spider Pig. We call it Pig's Bank over there. Shout out to that. Right. Hopefully y'all ain't too inebriated this morning. Let me get the cultivation channel in here while this pulls itself up. While it pulls itself up, flip it around for you now. Y'all know we're going to go check out the page. Because y'all know the Buy Me a Coffee is popping. We got stuff over there to keep you entertained. Just in case you was wanting to think about your guy. You ain't even got to donate. Just become a supporter. We're going to get us a freebie up over there so y'all can actually interact with us on a free note. And then that way you can become a supporter that way. Shout out to putting extras and stuff on your Buy Me a Coffee because, yeah, you can give people free value and then that way they'll come back and support when they can. You dig? Shout out to all of the posts because, we be posted up. But anyways, y'all know the Buy Me a Coffee is doing its thing. But I ain't gonna hold y'all up too long today. So let's go ahead and switch over to the videos.
Who is the strongest character in Daima right now? At number 5, we have Goku, just because we haven't seen his full power in all his fights yet. At number 4, it's Tamagami number 2. With the power boost from Neva, he was overpowering Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, making him a serious threat. At number 3, we've got Tamagami number 1. It's stated that he's the strongest of all the Tamagamis, and that definitely earns him this spot for now. Then we have Vegeta at second spot, because I don't think he would have had any problem beating the number 1 Tamagami with Super Saiyan 3. Finally, at number 1, it's none other than the chocolate-loving Majin Buu. He toyed with his opponent like a kid with a toy, and considering that his opponent was stronger than the other Tamagamis, it's clear Dude deserves the top spot for now. But what do you think? Who's the strongest in Daima right now?
What up, JoJo? Great. Appreciate y'all stopping by, actually saying hello. I know I do Dragon Ball content reviews every Saturday, aka Super Saturdays.
Rather than spending hours hours and hours scouring the web, trying to find an
Diddy.
unbiased source
Fucking
of
hell
world
nah, I ain't going to no
news.
Diddy
The
parties.
search is over once you discover Straight Arrow News. Whether you're checking out the app on your mobile device or on a browser on a PC, Straight Arrow News has just the facts right at your fingertips, without concern of being lied to and manipulated like the mainstream media so often has done to us. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on, Straight Arrow News has something for you, and it's a place you can trust to find all the information you need. Head on over to san.com/geekdom or click the link in the description and see for yourself. After a 1-week break, Dragon Ball Daima returns with episode 13. This episode is called Surprise. Let me paint the picture for you. Obviously, as many of you saw, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta defeats Tamagami 2 in the previous episode, episode 12, and now as it stands, Goku and the gang have 2 of the 3 demonic Dragon Balls. Meanwhile, Dr. Arinsu has 1 after Majin Buu defeats Tamagami 1, and Gomah has now discovered that Arinsu's plotting against him, as now there appears to be a big confrontation brewing between all 3 groups, all 3 parties, likely in Demon World 1 very, very soon. Also, sometime today, the English dub of Daima should be popping up on Crunchyroll. I do not know about the other streaming services, so check your streaming service that you're watching Dragon Ball Daima on for updates. I'm not sure what the schedule is for the other ones, but Crunchyroll gets priority before anybody else does. So when it comes to this episode of Daima, my thoughts, well, basically, the only real plot point that I found to be truly relevant as far as the story goes is what happened in the first few minutes of the episode. The rest of the episode is this sort of bizarre adventure with Goku and the gang. Like, their ship ends up having to be landed and Bulma and Pansy are repairing it. Again, there's more ship problems. Obviously, you know, you can point the finger as far as who keeps doing this, but they're in this sort of foresty area, and they end up battling all kinds of natives and inhabitants of Demon World 2. So this episode felt a lot more like the earlier Daima episodes, like 3, 4, 5, and 6, than what we got from episode 8 and episode 12. And I know that might bother some people, and to be honest with you, normally it wouldn't bother me so much. If Daima was a longer anime, like if it was 35 episodes, this would make sense to me. But we are in episode 13 of a planned 20, and I just feel like at this point, I'm just more hyped to see what ends up happening in Demon World 1 than anything else in Demon World 2. It was almost like with the Demon World 2 part of the story, we got the Tamagami fight early. It was like, you know, without counting back, the first real obstacle, the first real battle of Demon World 2. And now we're getting a bit more of like the world building by some of the creatures that live in Demon World 2, which I'm sure was a ton of fun for Toriyama to draw. There's a lot of imagination in this episode. The production is obviously great, well directed, well animated. But the plot is slowing down once again, and I'm not really a big fan of that, to be honest with you. The major plot point I want to get into is that at the beginning of the episode, you know, Gomah, the episode was even called Surprise, and I guess what Gomah did was the surprise, because it was definitely something that I was not expecting, or many of you probably weren't expecting. So Gomah is frustrated at this madness going on around him, so he tells Degasu to turn off warp. And what we end up seeing is this sort of chamber somewhere in the palace. Again, really creative, lots of colors, and a very sort of, it reminded me of the part where they go into warp for the first time. Just a lot of real, like, otherworldly creativity here. And he sort of grabs this giant lever and pulls it down, and warp falls asleep. So the idea here is that if they can't use warp because he's asleep, everyone is trapped where they are. Nobody can come into the demon realm or leave it, and you can't go between worlds. However, if you remember, all the way back in Daima episode 3, Shin revealed that there is another way, and that there is a direct connection between the demon worlds that was sealed off many, many years ago. But it seems like warp shutting down is an effective plan for now. But obviously there's that backup that was already foreshadowed before. So I think that either way they're going to get to Demon World 1 even without warp. So that to me was probably the most interesting part of the episode. The rest of the episode, you know, they have some comedy with Pansy and Bulma trying to fix the ship, with Hibis. They're using him as like almost like a ladder, like a step ladder. And then Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo and them have to deal with these creatures from Demon World 2. It's not just the Kraken that's dangerous there. And I thought for sure we were going to see the Glin trees at some point, not in this episode. They have to deal with these creatures and this big ogre, and it becomes this sort of situation where they have to work together to overcome and get the ship back on course to get to where they're at. So again, it feels like those earlier Daima episodes. You know, Dragon Ball Daima is going to have Dragon Ball, like that kind of vibe, Z and GT. And I think we've seen some of the Z stuff already with the Vegeta fight and the Goku fight with the Tamagami. And even the Majin Buu Tamagami 1, or Majin Do Tamagami 1 fight, even that felt, even though it was more comedic, it still felt like that classic, you know, Buu arc type of battle. Whereas here, I mean, look, this episode felt the most like a GT episode of anything we've gotten so far. And that's for better or for worse. Take your pick. What I mean by that is the Black Star Dragon Ball arc, where they're looking for the Black Star Dragon Balls, going from planet to planet, sort of on these little side quests, trying to resolve issues or escape some kind of danger to get the ball. Now, in this episode, there were multiple times where I was genuinely wondering why this is such a big problem for them, considering how strong they are. Like, there's a battle with this ogre, and obviously, I know that Goku doesn't want to kill a native of the demon realm, especially if it's like an animal. Like, I understand all that, but he didn't have to do that. Let's not forget that Goku knows how to use the Taiyo Ken, aka the solar flare, right? Now, obviously, there's no sun in the demon realm, but that's okay because you don't need the sun. You can just use the ability. It's called Sun Fist because you're sort of creating an artificial beam of sunlight to blind your enemy. They could have done that to get out of the problem. Instead, there's a little Goku goes Super Saiyan and fights. It's actually kind of funny. He's got a ruler, like this ogre, giant orange ogre. He's got like a bunch of books. He's a studious ogre, and and these are giant books. And when I say a giant ogre, I want to make sure I explain to you what that means. It wasn't quite as big as a grade 8, but it was close. It was that degree of difference in size. And he has the ruler, and Goku has the Nioibo, and like they're kind of having a power struggle with it. And Goku, even in his earlier Super Saiyan forms, or even in base, is able to do these feats of superhuman strength that he could easily knock this thing out. Or at the very least, temporarily blind him with the solar flare and did. And I'm waiting for that, and the episode didn't do that. And I thought that was one of the things about some of those early GT episodes that I didn't like, is that there are multiple ways to get out of problems, and it's like they just forget what they can do, which actually, that existed before GT. That's not a GT only problem. Let's not forget that in Dragon Ball Z, when Goku gets to Namek, he puts his hand on Krillin's forehead and is able to read his thoughts and figure out everything going on up until that point, and that's an ability we never see Goku use again. So you could say Toriyama forgot. In that case, he did. I think people assume Toriyama forgets more than he actually does, but there are cases where he genuinely does. I mean, that's rooted in reality. So
I forgot
this
a lot of
felt like
stuff.
that to a degree. It's disappointing because I felt like the episode, I didn't hate it. I wasn't like entirely bored with it or anything like that. I just sort of felt like it feels like we're moving backwards now. Not necessarily backwards, like, we're not regressing the story, but we're going back to episodes 5, 6, and 7, which I've said multiple times could have been fused into one episode. Again, if this show is going to be 20 episodes, I feel like unless the last couple of episodes are longer, I think people are expecting this to move a bit faster. And while I remember, I'm an RPG fan. I love little side quest stuff like this. This I didn't think was necessary. I'm happy we're learning more about Demon World 2. I'm not saying I'm not, but
They, of course,
I
gotta go
still
running
feel
around and explore,
like
right?
at this point,
It is GT
learning
2.0,
about
baby.
the Glens, learning about the Namekians, all that stuff, the Rymus stuff,
I got the full
that
Dragon
all
Ball
was
GT download if I
springboarded
want to
from
watch
them
it.
going
Shout
to
out to
Demon World 2.
GT. I do like
That's
Super Saiyan
plenty
4.
of lore. Like,
Big
that
fan of
is
Super Saiyan 4.
so much more lore than anything that I was expecting going into Daima. And I went into Daima with previous knowledge, already knowing it was going to be a bunch of new lore about the Demon Realm. But I didn't go into it thinking they were going to explain the origin of the multiverse. I mean, that went way beyond what I was expecting. So after hearing the Rymus stuff, brought us more than enough things to talk about and to speculate about and to theorize about than just this little side quest where, again, the ship has problems, and again, Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo have to work together. But at least Piccolo did something here. At least he helped out. Him and Vegeta, they helped out. And going back to the Rymus stuff, like, the Rymus stuff was stuff that could be relevant later on. These, like, giants and ogres and, these different civilizations, they're cool in short spurts, but the likelihood of any of this mattering in the future doesn't seem very high. Goku and Vegeta fighting these angry, oversized hamsters, you know what I mean, like in a forest. I felt like if they had taken, the majority of this episode and just sort of cut it up and put it in the first half of the episode, then in the second half of the episode the plot progresses a bit more, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But the fact that it was just the gomah stuff right at the beginning, then the rest of the episode is this side quest. Like, I feel like with episode 13, especially after how insane and over the top episode 12 was, there are still more things left in the series that need to marinate a bit more that, in my opinion, should take priority. Now, obviously, they're not making this show weekly. This show was put into production in 2022, and at that time, when this whole thing was being mapped out, it wasn't like they were able to see any of the feedback, so it's not like they're able to course correct it, because the story for this series and the scripts for these episodes were done ages ago. And please understand, you should know this by now, it's not that I don't like adventure, it's not that I don't like world building, and it's not that I don't appreciate Toriyama's work on this series and what he had in mind. It's just that this episode feels mostly inconsequential to the rest of the story, even more so than even the stuff from earlier in the series. There are more things I want to talk about, which I'm going to save for my breakdown video tomorrow here on the Geekdom 101 YouTube channel. I'm going to go into more of the lore and sort of where Toriyama pulled these ideas from, and overall just things that you missed. With that being said, take care. See you guys tomorrow.
In Dragon Ball Daima, Episode 10, Nahar reveals Supreme Kais, including himself, were chosen by Rymus after the multiverse's creation, tied to the now extinct Glins, whose life-giving trees are dead. This expands Nahar's backstory and raises the stakes for his role. Meanwhile, Neva, the ancient Namekian, who created the Demon Realm's Dragon Balls, reappears after a long absence, now serving Gomah with a sinister presence. His ominous confrontation with the Dragon Team sets the stage for an unpredictable clash. Nahar's revelations intertwine with Neva's return, hinting at a larger, multiverse-spanning conflict. The looming extinction of the Glines adds urgency, forcing the Dragon Team to face both personal and cosmic threats.
Start by talking about King Gomah, a central figure in the plot of Dragon Ball Daima. We know that he is a demon and, like any king, he is extremely ambitious. Demons in general have a great desire for power, and it is no surprise that Gomah is after the demonic third eye. This artifact seems to be much more than just something valuable or rare. It is a key that can unlock immense powers, which justifies Gomah's great interest. But after all, why does he want this eye so much? Let's explore some possible reasons. The first and most obvious reason is the grotesque increase in power. The third eye could actually be an artifact that grants the user a significant increase in strength. Or, even more interestingly, it could be an object capable of unlocking forbidden abilities, those deadly and extremely powerful techniques that are beyond the reach of most warriors.
Just gather up the Earth's Dragon Balls and have Shenron tell us where the Super Dragon Ball is hidden.
Oh, yeah! Must admit I'm impressed. Turns out you really are more than just an overbearing man. Ah, you little... Oh, never mind. Hey, Vegeta! Yes, sir! Go fetch. Yes, sir! The Dragon Radar! Honey, bye!
Whoa, wish he'd obey me like that. Okay, here we go. I summon forth the Eternal Dragon Shenron!
You really get things done quickly, don't you, Vegeta? Precisely what I look for in a gopher.
You don't thank people by humiliating them! Ignore him, sweetie. You did good.
Hey, are you nuts? You know I hate your sneak attacks!
Call the kiss a sneak attack. Shout out to Vegeta.
Tom Clip from the World Tournament. After that, we were introduced to some Fist of the North Star bandits that got lost and found their way to Dragon Ball. Now, this one introduces something interesting. If you know anything about Sun Wukong, the character Goku is based on, you know he has 3 iconic tools. Goku has 2 of the 3 tools, but Toriyama never introduced the third, that tool being the sealing gourd. Here, it has the power to seal someone if they don't answer when their name is called. After being sealed, they're turned into a liquid that if someone drinks, they can steal the sealed person's power. Kinda OP, huh? Luckily, Goku is able to avoid being converted with the power pole, and turns the gourd on its owners. Goku lets the villagers keep the gourd. Shame he couldn't keep it, as this is filler. But it's not really his style to use something like that anyway. The bandits are no match for Goku, but assuming they've been using the gourd for a while, they're probably pretty strong. So, let's give them 67 and 73. Now...
Since Goku is small again, Dragon Ball Daima brought back the power pole, and I could not be more excited. In the original Dragon Ball series, we saw a young Goku using the power pole. This pole was really important in the story and had a lot of prominence during the first Dragon Ball series, but in Dragon Ball Z, we saw it practically disappear from use since Goku no longer needed it. But now, in Dragon Ball Daima, the power pole is back and is also one of the central elements of the story again. Because of the de-aging, Goku lost many of his signature abilities and skills and is considerably weaker than before, so in order to better defend himself, he needs to rely now on his power pole again due to his shorter combat range. He's still capable of transforming into a Super Saiyan, however, though, as we've seen in recent episodes. Since Dragon Ball Daima, the latest installment in the Dragon Ball series, is the final work of Akira Toriyama. It's a really nice touch that he wanted one of the objects most loved by the fans of the original Dragon Ball to make a return.
Christ, really?
Don't forget to become a member of Unrelent Gaming's Patreon for exclusive manga content and early access. Isn't that right, Seth?
I already joined his Patreon today. Tons of great stuff on there, actually. But did you really have to blow up the city?
Yes.
Blew up the domino. You blew up the domino, and you're laughing. Do you realize the f***ing crisis here?
And you will be next. Unless you subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications right now.
Or else what? You'll aggressively scream another man's name for several hours?
Kakarot! Kakarot!
Y'all already see he's ready to go down for the week. It's a good episode, too. Good episode. Although Demon 13 was mid as fuck. Shout out to that mid-ass episode. Because that's what the reports say. 13 wasn't nothing to write home about. Shout out to the message, so.
Now this was most definitely something that I did not foresee having to unfold, but even with Raijin's story having to go and trace all the way back to Murno and battling against him within the demon realm, I wonder on what it was that Raijin knew about that warrants his agenda in wanting for it to move forward, and more importantly, is what it was that went down between Murno and Raijin on that very day and shifting the cosmic balance between them forever.
As our story now continues, following the initial events of Angel Murno having to be shown battling against the Demon Realm, and specifically having to be shown going toe-to-toe against all four Dark Masters within the Demon Realm, it was only just moments prior with Raijin being shown having to insert himself upon having to recall the events of the battle involving Murno within the Demon Realm, was when Raijin then went on to respond, all that had been riding on my ability to go and see my destiny through in obtaining and combining all three configuration cubes had now opened.
But as seen in previous episodes, all four of those guys easily handled Goku like he wasn't shit. So y'all know y'all got to go back in the playlist or go to your homeboy's channel, go straight to that video. Whichever way you want to do it, just go back either channel, his or mine, and you'll see the episode where they just completely handled Goku. So damn, Murno's just completely handling them. It's good to see that some get back was got from them at least, because they had to come back and get at Goku. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Ultimately led to this.
We might not be able to defeat that dude Murno, but we can whoop Goku ass. Yeah, that's that bullshit.
For it had ultimately become painfully clear to me upon seeing Murno overpower my Dark Masters that no ordinary measures would have been enough to go and stop such a being, as it was even before I had found myself in having to engage against him. I knew that although that he was the strongest angel which we had ever engaged against at the time, the angelic warrior known as Murno, whom we stood against and having to battle within the demon realm, still wasn't perfect, or at least from what I was able to gather together, he wasn't quite as flawless as he was shown when compared to before he was destroyed, and that was where I knew that I could ultimately break through his defenses and tag him, and it was only upon having to finally confront that wretched angel for myself was when I then began to understand the nature of what this angel was like in battle, because even while I stood as the mightiest among our kind and the strongest within the demon realm, Raijin continues, my strength along with my magic simply wasn't going to be enough. But even while I knew that taking this angel down wasn't going to be as easy as it was when compared to when I had annihilated his rookie siblings before him, I still decided to go and engage against Murno anyways, just so that I could see as to what I could ultimately exploit upon having to battle this mighty angel for myself. And while I was given the edge within those moments by feeding off of the dark energy that encompasses our demon realm, Raijin continues upon being shown uppercutting Murno in the face, I further went on to use these moments to my advantage to channel my strength along with my magic to its highest in order to finally catch that angel by surprise. As even while I did, and as hard as I was shown having to smash my way into this angel, Raijin continues, there was something about this creature that I just couldn't go and put my finger on within those early moments, but it was only while that rotten father of his was shown having to watch from above was where I then began to see on why this Murno was different, Raijin continues, and more importantly, I then began to see on why the Grand Minister had decided to not go and tell him about the configuration cubes, along with what my true intention was, and little by little throughout that fight, I started to see on why. And as even while I knew that upon having to battle against Murno, that if he had fallen in battle here against me, then surely the Grand Minister would ultimately be bound to intervene, which ultimately as an end result had placed me at a significant disadvantage against them, since I was the only one left who could oppose them, to which as young Raijin was then shown having to address the Grand Priest, was when young Raijin then went on to respond, "You spineless creature, did you really think that by sending this angel here to stop me will actually be what works within your favor? For your very arrogance is boundless, but your cowardice is even greater, you swine, for all you've managed to do here was ensure this angel's destruction, and so delaying the inevitable will only get you so far, but once your strongest angel falls, Raijin continues, then it will ultimately be you in the end.
He don't mind just reading each fucking person in his own book. Yeah, reading the story, right? And daring to come and wage this war here against me. You gotta try to make up fake voices. Nobody got time for that.
Right back into the fight by punching Raijin in the face was when Raijin's recap went on to then continue. But as quick as I was to go and address that coward minister in forewarning him for the dangers that will come, I was too careless to have went and taken my eyes off that angel, because although I knew that he was very responsive in combat, I wasn't expecting for him to be as fast as he was to continue our battle, even after I had attacked him the way I did prior. But even while he had went and attacked me, I could sense a very strange but yet very familiar darkness that was beginning to come from somewhere deep within his very spirit, as it was this very feeling that I had then began to sense coming from deep within him is what intrigued me the most, Raijin continues. But even with my power having to rival and even surpass that of many gods of destruction, I still wasn't formidable enough to truly do the damage that I had intended on creating onto Murno. My magic and the energy that my magic had been feeding off of, however, within the demon realm was what kept me going out there against Murno, for it even went on to sidetrack the angel the longer we continued to engage, which was exactly what it was that I had needed. And while the angel continued to display feats of strength that went far beyond my own, Raijin continues, I still made sure to go and keep a very watchful eye on him, which was all that I needed in order to study the way he fought. And while he continued to fight with an iron fist and doing what his father had ordered for him to do, I still went on to make sure that even while he may have held the advantage for a brief moment out here against me, that I too had been watching and growing stronger myself as a result of our battle, which had even gone as far as to take the angel back by surprise, because as I went on to watch those who came before me fall to Murno, I, on the other hand, had refused to go and suffer the same fate as they did. And as even while I had went and refused to give in and allow for this angel to seize this opportunity here against me, the shadow that I had sensed that was hidden beneath his divine brilliance was slowly beginning to stir, and as we continued to clash, I continued to feel it growing stronger with every blow that was exchanged, as although I wasn't able to understand it at first, I knew that it was there buried deep within his very soul, which was ultimately just waiting to go and make its presence known here against me. And for a moment while I questioned on whether my senses were deceiving me, I only then began to ask on could it really be that the so-called perfect angel had carried within him a darkness that was similar to our own within the demon realm? Or had it been possible that what it was that I was sensing had been something far more sinister than what the angel was allowed to reveal? For could it really be that the firstborn son of the Grand Minister was harboring a prideful and dark nature that was reflective to that of my own, and while at first I couldn't go and believe for this feeling to be true, as our battle continued and the more we fought, the more apparent my suspicions about him had became, and while I continued to fight this angel with every ounce of anger and hatred within my heart for his kind that I had, and it was only then upon that very moment during the middle of our battle was where I began to see it for myself. And as it was only within this very brief moment here against Myrno was where I then began to see his form begin to slowly change, as well as having to see his aura flickering with some kind of an otherworldly darkness that was reflective to our own. As it was only upon having to then see this with my very own eyes was where I knew that my suspicions about this angel had been correct with what I was beginning to sense coming from him all along. And as once I had this moment to go and see this for myself, Raijin continued.
He got the Super Saiyan 3 eyebrow line though. You see what I'm saying? Shouts out to them eyes. I mean, look right there. You see the facial structure? That's Super Saiyan 3. Good luck. Good luck getting back.
Was when it all finally dawned upon me on why the Grand Minister had kept the knowledge behind what I was truly after by using the configuration cubes away from Myrno, and his very reasons for having to do this was because deep down within Myrno's heart, similar to that of us demons here, Raijin says, Myrno's very soul had been tainted with rage, and along with this rage came a prideful resentment towards the very hierarchy which he fought to protect. And as I knew right then and there that this angel was by no means pure, and while I saw this opportunity as a way to try and sway Myrno's mind into joining our ranks, Raijin continues, there was still but a very small part of him that had remained loyal to the throne, and so why destroy what can be used to conquer? As it was only even after I had realized this revelation for myself, I knew that I just had to go and try, but even while I did, the angel would not give in, Raijin continues, no matter how badly I tried to deter him from his orders, which had ultimately then resulted in the battle having to carry on, for not only was this a moment of weakness for the angel in attempting to do anything and everything he could to try to mask himself from his father, and I just knew within my guts that this too wouldn't last, as I had then realized right then and there that these so-called neutrally divine beings weren't so incorruptible after all. And while I never would have expected to have the angel later turn against his own kind in attempting to set off a revolution that would nearly go on to destroy the entire multiverse, what I did, however, know was that whatever this power was that Myrno had been harboring was undoubtedly a power that I just had to go and wield for myself. And even though I had tried to whisper delusions of authority within the moment of our battle to Myrno, his undying loyalty to that pathetic Omni King and father of his wasn't something that was going to be easy for me to go and try to break away, and thus our battle continued, Raijin says. And as even while I continued to attack, I also watched very carefully as his frustrations were beginning to take over, and while his father may have not realized it within that moment, I, on the other hand, did. And more than anything, while I hated the idea of ever having to side myself alongside another angel, Raijin continues, I knew that if I were to somehow find a way to go and turn that angel against the Grand Minister, then the chances of my victory would have been guaranteed. But since Myrno was too naive at the time to have realized on what it was that I had been offering him during the course of our battle, my attempts to go and get him to turn himself over in joining us had proven to be unsuccessful, Raijin continues. And after seeing that there was no other way in having to have me warp his mind into joining us to destroy the Grand Minister, I only then had made my decision that if I was going to go down against this angel during this battle, Raijin continues, then I wasn't going to go down without having to take a very large part of both of them with me during the process. But before I was ready to go and unleash the full extent of my demonic magic, it was only just then during that time where I had just so happened to have overheard that wretched Grand Minister go and give Myrno some kind of order here against me, Raijin continues. While Myrno went on to go and make his move upon being given the order by the Grand Minister, it started to become very obvious on what he was planning on doing here against me, because with Myrno given the order to go and have me sealed away, that cowardice angel Angel Myrno had wasted no time in having to do exactly that, and while I had sensed the trap beginning to formulate around me, and I wasn't able to respond fast enough to avoid the dangers that I was hereby placed in, and it was only here where I had learned that not only do these mighty angel warriors wield incredible battle power if given permission to go and use it during combat, but it was only here where I had then realized that there was nothing that I could hope to try and do that would liberate me from the chains that Myrno had placed around me, and even while I struggled, both my rage and my hatred for these angelic creatures knew no bounds, for all I wanted to do from that moment onwards was to go as far as to free myself of these chains that were placed upon my body and tear their heads clean off their bodies, Raijin says. But no matter how hard I tried to go and break free from what was about to go and happen to me, there was nothing that I could have done within that moment in time that would have made the difference that I was hoping to make, Raijin says. Because while I struggled to break free from the chains that had bound me, Myrno's power was simply too strong for my magic to have any kind of effect on, which had ultimately left me with nothing by the very end. But Myrno's bind on me didn't just stop there, for the Grand Priest had feared me so much so that even while in my weakened states, they were afraid that I would go and find a way to escape this metal prison, and as such, the chamber that they had went and imprisoned me in was no ordinary prison, but it was rather a construct of angelic design that was embedded with angelic power that even I couldn't break loose from, as it was Myrno himself who had forged the very seal that had kept me bound, for it was but a web of light and power that had cut me off from the demon realm and away from everything that I had worked generations to construct, and yet even while trapped inside, I could still sense their fear of me having to radiate from the outside. And with Myrno having followed the Grand Priest to every order without question, Raijin continues, he only further then went on to not only seal me away within a prison that was designed to break even the strongest wills within it, but little did they know that my will cannot be so easily broken. And to only further ensure my defeat within this metal chamber, Myrno was given the orders to use his magic and putting me into a deep slumber. It was only then where I knew that there was no escape, and while fear is a poor foundation for victory, Raijin continues, they may have thought that they had won, but all they did was delay my inevitable return, Raijin says, for the Grand Minister could have ordered to go and end my life when he had the chance, but if he had gone as far as to go and make such a move, then the very...
See, that's the exact same point that I'd be making. Yeah, if Myrno couldn't put him down, the Grand Minister was supposed to come in and finish him off. Why is y'all not finishing off your opponents? You see what I'm saying? That's why Vegeta's is like my favorite character. He don't care about finishing off the opponent. I'm going to just go ahead and make it so your ass ain't coming back. Hell, what am I going to do all this stealing and putting your ass in the thing for? Then when I put you in there, I'm going to blow that motherfucker the fuck up. They had to keep you in there. It's just so I can fucking have a minute to blow your ass up.
The demon realm would have been thrown off
Say
sync,
that.
which would have ultimately have resulted in catastrophic consequences without my presence in keeping the demon realm stable and away from imploding. And to only further avoid and having to go and upset the balance of the entire multiverse by destroying me prior to having a demon god take my place, Myrno had finally at long last laid his claim and victory over me by locking me away and sealing off the demon realm completely and making sure that we would never rise to overthrow the powers that be, never to be shown having to be freed from that wretched prison ever again. But after seeing what I had saw that came from Myrno, Raijin continues, I knew that one day his true nature would have been revealed, as there would have been no way that the Grand Minister would ever stand to allow for such a force like Myrno and his corruption to ever exist, as it was only since that time, for thousands of millennia, I was forced to simmer within that wretched chamber as my rage continued to fester and my hatred growing deeper and deeper as time went on. But even now, while going and reflecting upon my imprisonment fills me with a rage that words cannot capture, Raijin says, to be caged the way I did and to be silenced the way I was is a disgrace that I will vow to erase with both fire and fury, in making sure that such a failure as the one that was shown is never to be repeated and have happened to me ever again, especially so
sorry, Lord, please, I'm going to kill you again. Send you right back to hell. What would you just say? Kakarot might let you live, but I won't.
This too will not last forever, for I will forge into my very being and the establish a power so great that there will be no angel that will ever be able to overthrow me as they once did, and I will go on to do this by going to any and all measures that I would need to in order to have this become a reality, as I cannot run the risk of having anything go and stop me here for a second time, as it may end up being my last if I am not careful with my approach, Raijin continues. And while my magic along with my power remains stable, I ultimately intend on plunging the multiverse into total darkness, which will require a power far beyond my current standing if I hope to turn this vision into a reality as well. And while I wait for the Dark Masters to go and do what needs to be done to secure my reign in becoming the one true God King of the multiverse, Raijin continues, this will be where you, both my elite demons and those who rank beneath you, will go and serve their purpose. And unlike Myrno, Raijin continues, why simply go and rush when I intend on making this slow and painful for all of them to experience? As the elite demon Garlock went on to then respond, but my lord, what if the other angels try and go and stop you from reaching your goals a second time, my master? How will we go about by making sure that they are not to stand in your way again? With Raijin responding, well, it's simple, because once I have what the Dark Masters have been ordered to go and do for me, even the angels themselves will no longer pose as being any kind of threat to me with the power that I will be wielding, which is also exactly why my plans are to not be jeopardized no matter the cost. With the elite demon Kaima having to then chime in, then this too shall be, Master Raijin, for we will go and stake our lives in making sure that the demon realm reigns supreme over the living worlds no matter what it takes, even while at the expense of anyone and everyone who dares to go and stand within our way of absolute domination, as I promise to go and bring their worlds to its knees as a tribute to your honor, Master Raijin, with Garlock responding, yes, as I also second this notion, Lord Raijin, for I will go on to make sure that our armies continue to grow stronger and more powerful along the way, all at the same time while also bringing to you new warriors who are just as dark and just as ruthless as we are to aid us, with Raijin responding, good, for I expect nothing less while trusting that you will go and do what is directed of you both to go and do, as I will be watching you all very closely in the meantime, and so whatever it is that you go and do, and no matter what it is that you go and come across, you will do everything within your power to ensure that this is done. Do you both understand? And as the same goes for all the rest, and so you will stake your lives to see that everything goes according to my very command, for Universe 7 isn't going to be the only universe that will suffer, Raijin continues, and as they will simply go on to serve by being but the beginning of a cascade of horrors that will bring the rest of the multiverse down to its knees, and then one by one, as they each start to crumble, their champions will be destroyed and their gods will be silenced. This is the destiny that I have set into motion, and you are all going to serve as being my ultimate instruments within my grand realization, Raijin says. And so now go and leave no remnants of hope behind in your wake as Universe 7 falls, Raijin continues, for it is but the first of many steps forward that will bring me ever so closer towards my ultimate goal of absolute dominion. And so now go and destroy their champions, desecrate their sacred grounds, and sow despair among their hearts while you go and search for new recruits to go and join our ranks in the meantime. And if the resistance proves to be far greater than expected, Raijin continues, then call upon the Dark Masters as they will go on to ensure victory where you cannot. But if you fail to do so as I command, then understand that you will never know peace no matter how far you travel, and no matter where it is that you go and try to hide from me, demons. For I will not tolerate anything less than succession during your missions, and so this will be your first and only warning from me, Raijin says. Do not falter, do not waver, and do not give in to turning yourselves over into giving any of them what they want, and that is because if you do, then you will be destroyed, and so now go and do what must be done while I wait, demons. To which it was only then just upon with Raijin being shown having to give out the order, with both Kaima and Garlock being shown having to be sent off on their missions, was when Raijin went on to continue, yes, good, and now that the pieces are all starting to slowly come together within my favor, very soon under my command, there will be no gods, no angels, and no mortal warriors who will ever dare to oppose me ever again. And as my utopia will be forged from the ashes of their resistance, and once I go on to merge the demon realm with the very fabric of the multiverse itself, only then will the barriers that separate us no longer be what binds my law, Raijin continues. And what's even more is once I am able to go and see inside those configuration cubes after assembling all three into one, then not only will I only then go on to see on what lies beyond on the other side, but no longer will the Grand Priest or his wretched angels ever hold sway over existence as they have while under the rulership of those cursed Omni Kings ever again. And what's even more is once the Dark Masters have followed through in granting me my wish in merging Murno's angelic power with my very own and amplifying my strength far beyond my previous limitations, only then, when that moment comes, will be the very second where I go on to transcend far beyond anyone's ability to go and do anything to stop me. But even now, I must be careful with how I take my approach moving forward, because one wrong misstep and it could end up costing me everything that I've been striving for, especially by gathering and merging all three configuration cubes before it's too late, because whatever secrets lie beyond these realms, Raijin continues, are pieces of information that only I must obtain, for I must learn more about the secrets behind those Omni Kings, along with their origins and how they can be destroyed without ever having to stand in my way ever again. Which is also why I want to know on if those old rumors that have echoed throughout the shadows of this supposed Omni paradox is to be true or not, because if anything were to go and happen, then all must be done to ensure my reign, even at the cost of risking one's own life in order to see that my mission is at long last complete, as even while there are still those who may still go on to pose a significant threat to me as I am at the moment, once the Dark Masters are to finally go and have my wish be granted is when the tables will finally turn, Raijin continues. And so while I will go and wait until they have given me the word that my wish has finally been granted, only then will I resume my mission and see it until the very end, until it is all finally completed. For the angel Myrna was a fool to not go on and ensure the destruction of those who would be willing to go on and still stand in the way of my plans, but they too will all soon be dealt with, as I must not go on to underestimate anyone until this is done, and that is exactly what I intend on doing. But nevertheless, for what it was that I had seen within you before, Raijin continues upon being shown having to reflect back on Myrna and smiling, will ultimately become mine for the taking, fallen angel, for you should have sided with us here when you saw that you and I were not so much different from one another after all. But no matter, because while I knew that you would ultimately fail due to your sheer arrogance having to blind you from the truth of the bigger picture that you weren't able to see, I, on the other hand, will not go and make the same mistakes as you once did. And once I lay claim and use that very power which you yourself had nearly used to destroy the entire multiverse with, I will only then go on to have what I've been longing for, as all life throughout each corner of every universe will bend their knee to my will, as it was only right then and there now, during that moment, where the Beyond Dragon Ball Super Story of the Dark Masters, the official Murno sequel, manga chapter number 19 special, then comes to a close.
Well, actually, I'll go ahead and take it from here, as I do want to go as far as to address something very important with our dear viewers at the moment. As before I go and give you the following information, if you aren't already a member of Unreal's Patreon community, then you are truly missing out on so much without you even knowing, because not only is the next episode already on the page, but if you want to support all of the manga content that you see and gain access to tons of exclusives along the way that range from a variety of different things, then we do encourage for you all to become members of our Patreon community today, for we will link everything down within the description box below and pinned comment section as well. Now I will go as far as to say that even though I wasn't expecting for Raijin's history to go as far back as to the very beginning of when Murno's corruption had began to slowly manifest its way onto the surface, it has become painfully clear to us all by now on what it is that Raijin is after. And if we are to defend our worlds and being able to see the light of day once again, then we cannot allow for this monster to lay claim over a power that is anywhere near as dangerous as Murnos was. But even now, while our search is to only continue to move onwards, you do not want to go go and miss out on what is about to happen coming up next. So we hope that you all enjoyed today's video. And before you leave, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up by smashing that like button on your way out, as well as also subscribing to Unreal Gaming's channel for tons of new Dragon Ball content. So with that, we thank you all so much for watching, as we'll be seeing you all again for the next one.
Hello. Did you know that you can stay up to date with the latest Dragon Ball content by simply subscribing to Unreal Gaming?
Also, don't forget to follow on these social media platforms, you sexy son of a bitch.
Roshi.
Silent Cell, me and the fans are having a moment. That's right. I know what you want. Extra long, thick Dragon Ball content. Quality reviews with flawless editing. Yeah, you like that, wouldn't you? You dirty bitch.
Roshi, the fuck?
God damn it, I need them to subscribe, Cell.
And we're demonetized.
Yeah, screw it. Let's cut to the video.
But then he said he wants that boy Mono's power so he can go ahead and hit his next level. So he can fight the damn Grand Priest. Hey, shout out to make the Grand Priest put in work.
You're making a big mistake.
You don't just get to sit here and watch Zeno.
Where do you think you're going? Pity, what a waste of talent. Not today. Back off. Have it your way. A tough guy like you should be able to face the truth.
Are you okay?
Shout out to the big homie. Y'all know he dropped that beat for me.
Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light. Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light.
I be spelling shit wrong all the goddamn time I see. I might have to start spell checking shit.
Remember me
Anyway, I'm gonna need you to fix this shit. Shout out to that.
place for you to stay.
I know we're gonna check out the Rumble though, so y'all can see the studio version versus the recorded off the phone version. But whichever way you prefer, that's up to y'all to pick, right? So I can plug you options. I'll give you some options. I got a Rumble link in there. No, I got a Rumble link in there for you. Y'all know I'll see y'all next week for Secret Saturday. Everybody else, y'all know I'll see y'all over on TWP here at about 10 o'clock. 10 to 10 for the win.
Remember me when you're far away. I'll always have a place for you to stay in the garden.